everybody. Well, we have a guest, but I think she's a little low for you to see. Arwen's back by special request. Some of you wanted to see Arwen. So here she is. Say hi to everybody. Say hello. Say hello. We'll see if she stays with us. I'm not so sure. We'll see. All right, well, welcome, guys. So this week's going to be one rather long video. But it's everything in one for the week. So we're going to be solving equations now. We're going to do addition, several examples of addition. We'll do some subtraction. Can you see her in there? Yeah. Tristan's helping me out today. Say hi. Some subtraction. Once these are done, I'll change the board out. And we're also going to do multiplication and division. I think you'll pick this up really fast. These are really, the trickier one probably will be how to do the division ones. But once we get those examples down, I know you guys will have it down pat. So while there's going to be a lot in the video today, we're also going to do a little bit on algebraic tables, which are called function tables, which are kind of fun, really easy too. So a bunch of stuff this week, but don't feel overwhelmed. It's pretty simple stuff once you get the hang of it and do the examples. So watch the videos, okay? And what I'll do is I'll change out in red. Hopefully you can see that in red. I hope sometimes the videos come out a little different. I'm going to change this word out in red for you, so when you're going through the video, you know when it changes to subtraction, multiplication, and division, so that you can kind of slide the time bar where you need to pick up, okay? And you may want to watch a little and then do the addition problems for homework, and then watch a little more, do the subtraction, watch a little more, okay, and rewatch, definitely important. I asked a bunch of you this past week. We had a lot of Zooms. I had a lot of one-to-one or small group Zooms, and they were awesome. I also had my regular optional Friday one that a few of you came to, so that was great. We reviewed a couple things that I saw as common mistakes on that homework, so that was really helpful. Anytime you guys, I can do, pretty much anytime can do a Zoom. So if you're stuck after watching a video and you're really not understanding it and you've looked at the online notes, don't hesitate to reach out to me, okay? Like I said, those have been so valuable this week. And for some of you, it meant a really, a shift in your grade, because we redid assignments together and you proved to me through conversation that you had it. You were able to answer those and you knew the method and you got it. So it's going well, and it's makes me happy to see you guys feel, I can see it in your faces or hear it in your voices when I call, that you're more and more confident. So awesome. The other thing I want to note really quick, this week, when you do these, it's going to require you to actually write out some work. So that means that the assignments won't be like the usual format, but it will be where you have to do your handwriting. I suppose you probably could type it into the document I'm going to send you, but if you want to handwrite, I do need to see the work on these, because for the final I'll want you to show the work, okay? And showing the work this way, although some of these are going to seem really simple, showing the work is super important for 7th grade and above. So just make sure that you're showing that work. Again, you could do a lot of these in your head, but eventually, going into next year, you may not have access to a calculator, and the numbers might be fractions or get a little harder. So you'll have to do that work to separate and figure out what your values are. Okay, so it's going to be more of a Word document where you guys can, that'll be your homework format this week. You'll send it back to me in 365. If you have any problems with that, don't hesitate to let me know. I'll give you a call. I can walk you through that. Okay, you guys are getting amazing though technologically, so I think everybody's pretty good on that end. And there's going to be 3 assignments for math, because I'm doing subtraction and addition in one form, multiplication, division on the second form, and then you'll see homework number 3 this week, which will be the function tables. Again, they're super easy. You'll do great. I know you will. Do you want to get down? Can you say bye-bye? Say bye-bye. I'm getting tired. Okay. Thank you, Arwen. We'll see you later. Goodbye. All right, so let me move this chair out of the way so you guys can see. I've got 9 examples up here with addition, and I'm going to show you kind of how to work through these. So we are solving, like I said. So what you're going to be able to do is figure out what x equals, and figure out what x equals. I've got some y's in there. The k, the c, and the g, those are all called variables. Hopefully you said that. Variables are letters. What I want you to do on these, if this is something new to you, some of you have had it, some of you have not at your former schools. So what I was always taught is to think of the equal sign like a wall, okay? So my teacher would kind of have me just put in that little dividing wall. I'll make that a little darker so you guys can kind of see it, at least on the first one. Excuse me. So I make that little wall. What has to happen in order to solve an equation, we have to isolate, or another term would be just to get it alone. We've got to isolate the variable. We want to make sure it's alone. Now, right now in the first example, on a lot of these, you're going to see that it's attached to something else. We want to get rid of that on this side, and we want to move that number over to this side. It's like balancing out an equation to figure out the variable. So what we're going to do, sorry, I have a lot of cords that I'm tripping over here. What we're going to do is, instead of plus 4, in order to move him over, we can do the inverse operation, the opposite operation. So instead of plus 4, I'm going to minus 4. If I do that to this side, I'm also going to do it to this side. So we are balancing it out. If I'm taking it from over here, I now have to make sure I'm moving it to the other location. So we're minusing 4 here. Same operation, minus 4, minus 4. Now what you'll notice happens here, remember I said we want to get the variable alone. So this here, if you notice, 4 minus 4 is 0, so it cancels out. We're going to draw a nice long line. So you don't have to even worry about that anymore. You have done a great job with isolating the x. It's all set to go. So we know that all we have left here is x equals something, right? So what we're going to do is just subtract that. Pretty easy, right? Now some of you may have already guessed that x must have equaled 22 before you even actually solved it the traditional algebraic way, because you knew that in your head. Again, these are going to look simple, but I'm training you to show the work this way, because next year you'll have decimals, fractions, things like that, where you'll have to do much more calculation, okay? So that you know the process. So again, we've isolated the x, which is what we want. We moved the 4 over, minus 4 to cancel it here, minus 4 to balance out over here, for a value of 22. And if you check that, if you put this in, 22 plus 4 equals 26. That's a thumbs up, you know that you did that correctly. So on the homework, you'll be able to look at it also quickly and say, I did this right. Okay, you can check that both ways. All right, number 2, we're going to put in our dividing wall. Now, it doesn't matter the order of the x. This one just happens to be second. That's okay. We want to get rid of that positive 12. To do that, we do the opposite of positive 12, which would be a minus 12. So instead of that positive 12, we're going to minus 12. And where else will we do that? We're going to do it, I'm going to make a dashed line so that looks a little more separated. We're also going to do that to the other side. Good for you if you said that already. I wonder if some of you talk along to my videos, maybe. Be kind of funny if you did. All right, we're going to bring down the x. Remember, these two are all set. They're canceled because it just equals 0. You don't need to write 0. Just bring down your x equals, you're going to subtract. You've got a 7 there and a 1 for a final answer of 17. And then in your head, you just go back and can check that. So 17 plugged in, 12 plus 17 is actually 29. So we got it right. We'll put a little check there. All right, we're going to keep on moving. I've got my little visitor back. Arwen does not want to leave. She loves math a lot. All right, on the next one. Find that equal sign. Make your little wall. I want to get the x alone, but this positive 8 here is attached to it. To get rid of a plus 8, positive 8, we're going to do minus 8. And remember, equations are all about balancing, so it's got to go to the other side also. Excuse me. These guys, you can cross them out or just realize that they're all set. We don't need to put the 0 down. And 17 minus 8. Hopefully everybody's saying 9 at home. And just plug that in. See if that works. Is 8 plus 9 17? Yeah. Give yourself a little check there that you know you've got that right. You'll find that the addition and subtraction are quite easy. And I even think multiplication is super easy. Like I said, when we get to the division, that's it's not hard. I just have to show you the method for that. All right, on this one, now you'll notice a little bit different of a setup, and that's okay, doesn't matter. You'll notice that my equal sign is here, so I've got my dividing wall, just like we've been doing. My x is here, but I want to get rid of this plus 15. I want the variable alone. So instead of plus 15, we are going to minus 15. And that obviously gives us 0, 15 minus 15. I've got my x alone now on that side, equals, and then a minus 15 over here. And just, you know, to be sure, do your borrowing, right? Some people forget to do that. So we've got a 5, and then my 4, and then, so we think that x equals 45, and that's okay that they're not in the typical order. Normally you want the letter first. You could just rewrite that as x equals 45. It doesn't matter. And then we want to just check that. If I go back and plug that in, 45 is 45 plus 15, 60. It is. So we are a-okay with that one. All right, the next one. Put your dividing line in. Again, I call it the wall. And we want to isolate the x, but now it has this plus 6 attached. We want to move him over to the other side. So to negate, we do the inverse. We get a 0. I'm going to minus the 6 over here too. So 14 minus 6 is an 8. We think, right? Just going to get rid of those lines so we can see this better. So we think that x equals 8. If I put an 8 in there, 8 plus 6 is 14. You got it. Usually by example number 5, people are telling me, okay, I got it. So if this is pretty good for you, your option would be to stop the video now and scroll ahead to the subtraction one. You can do that with all of these as you just know how you feel, and if you're feeling secure with it, you can definitely move on. I'm going to finish these up, so if you need them, if you want to see more, we'll keep going. All right, on this one, my wall is right in here. I want to isolate the y, so I've got to get rid of plus 20 by doing minus 20. I've got to do that to both sides, right, to balance it out. Those will cancel because 20 minus 20 is 0. I'm going to bring down my y. And then I just have to subtract those. You guys probably, before you even did this one, you knew the answer was going to be 5 because 5 plus 20 is 25. All right, just a few more here. Here's my wall. I've got k attached to 22. We don't want that letter to be with anything. We want to try to get it alone. So we're going to minus 22 on both sides. These will cancel. I'm going to bring down my k. It's hard to write sideways here. 7 minus 2 is a 5, and 3 minus 2 is obviously a 1. We get 15, and you want to just check that, okay? So plug it in. Is 15 plus 22, 37? Yes. And we could go over and do that at the side. If you have a calculator handy, that's fine. These will be easy enough. You probably won't need one, but as you guys get older, you will be able to and want to have a calculator as you go forward. All right. I've got my wall right where that equal sign is. I want to isolate or get that c, the variable, alone. So I want to get this 11 away from it. I've got to minus 11 from both sides to get this to balance. So 18 minus 11 is 7. Get rid of that line for us. And we get C equals 7 or 7. It's okay, again, that those are in that order. And then we just check this. Is 7 plus 11 18? It is. So that one's good. And one more. I've got my wall here. I want to isolate the G. So instead of plus 2, we're going to do minus 2 on both sides. The 2 minus 2 cancels out, which is exactly what we want to happen. Make life easier for us, right? 22 minus 2. I'll try not to use a G on the homework. Some people mistake it for a 9. Not the greatest variable to use sometimes, but anyway, 19. Now we just want to make sure that we check that. Is 19 plus 2 21? Of course it is, right? Awesome. All right, so what I'm going to do is just clear the board and we'll move on to subtraction. Really, again, really easy. I'll probably do a few less examples. It's again a pretty easy concept. And I'll change this to subtraction so that if you're scrolling through the video, you know where to find that starting point, okay, for when you're doing your homework. All right, I'll be right back. Hi, everybody. So we're back. This section is going to be now subtraction equations. Okay, we just did a great job with addition. So this is very similar. So this will probably, I've got a few less examples because I think you'll pick it up really quick if you've just watched the addition ones. Very, very, very similar. Okay, except that it's just minus. All right, so again, where we see an equal sign, we're going to go ahead and put in our wall just to separate that. This x has a negative 5 or minus 5. Could say it either way, it's fine. We still want to get that away from the x. Now, how do the difference here, different than addition, was that we have that minus sign to change. Well, the opposite of minus 5, or if you want to say the opposite of negative 5, is plus 5. So that's all we have to do. Now remember, we have to balance it out, right? Just like a scale. We want to then add to this side to make sure that we've balanced it. We're taking it from here, we're giving it to this number. All right, that will give us a 0, so we don't have to write anything down. Same as before. I've got this x that I can bring down. We now know that if we add those, we get 30. Your answer, x equals 30. And again, you would have known that from looking at that, right? But on the homework, I'll say it again. This is what I need to see. You don't necessarily have to put the wall in if you understand where the separation is, but I do want to see that you've shared that number to both sides, okay, and solved this way. So that's what I'm looking for on the homework. Okay. And sure enough, if we plug that in, 30 minus 5 is 25, so it does check. So you should, in your head, you should, I would love to actually even see if you're doing this by hand, is that little check that you did that in your head, okay? All right, I've got my wall. I've got to get this minus 15 away from the x, or negative 15. So the opposite of a minus or a negative is a plus or a positive. I've got to do that to both sides. We love that this cancels. That's exactly what we want. Oh, I've got Arwen's all stretched out on the floor, you guys. I think she missed me. She came back up. And I'm just going to add those two together. 5 plus 4 is 9. 2 plus 1 is 3 for an answer, we think, of 39. And we're going to plug that 39 in here. Does that make sense? 39 minus 15 is 24. You can also go up and check it, just to be sure. Always a good idea. And there it is. It matches our original. So this is a good check. We did it. All right. Same thing again. This is where our wall is on this one. I have a w this time as my variable. I want to isolate the variable by getting rid of the minus 21 or negative 21. So I'm going to add that to both sides to get a balance here. Bring down my w, add that together. 21 plus 6 is 27, and we check it. 27 in here. Does that make sense? 27 minus 21 is at 6. Yep, I've got my son Tristan's on the steps going, yes, yes. All right, awesome. Give yourself a little, just like I say in class, give yourself a pat on the back if if you're doing this just fine and you're getting it. All right. So a virtual pat on the back. I'm giving you a virtual high five. Stick with me. All right, we've got our wall there. We're trying to isolate h. we have to do the opposite of a -9, which is a +9. I'm going to add that 9 on the other side. Cancels out. I've got 12 plus 9 here. So 9 plus 2 is 11, carrying that 1, and then a 2. We believe the answer to be 21, but we just want to check that. So 21 minus 9 is 21 minus 9, 12. Yes. And again, you could just go over there to the side, and just to be sure, never hurts. There's the 12 that we had originally, so we know that that number slotted in works. Great. She's sleeping down here. I wish I could move the camera to show you. All right, we've got our wall over on this side this time, but that doesn't matter, okay? We still have to get this -9 or -9 away from the F. So we're instead, opposite operation, or again, they call it the inverse operation, is +9. Tristan's saying something to me. What are you saying, buddy? He's my little math guru. 14 minus 9. We should get a 5 there. Giving you guys some time to think about that. Oh no, I just made an error, you guys. I'm looking at that going, no, that's not right. Actually, I'm going to stop right there. See if you guys know what I did. You know I make mistakes in the classroom, and most of you will be like, Mrs. B, which I appreciate. I don't have you here to do that, but I luckily am trying to pay attention to what I'm writing, so some of you might have noticed I forgot to change that to a plus. I'm going 5 minus 9 is not 14 in my head. 5 minus 9, anybody know it? I'll give you a second to think about it. Would be a negative, do you know, Tristan? -4, he's saying -4. So that does not match. See, this is why in my head, it's so important to check it and go to the side and do that. So look at that, I made an error. We've got the F. I make many, believe me. 9 plus 4 is 13. Do you know the answer, Tristan? Did you say it already? The final answer? 23? 23. So now let's see if that feels better, because something didn't feel right to me, and I'm going, what? 23 minus 9. We can put that over to the side just to check it. Sometimes I go too fast, you guys. We all do it, right? I get a 4 and a 1. That brings me back to what I originally had. Ah, much better. Now we can say that that one checks. See, I went too fast. Watch your signs. All right, one more with subtraction. I'm trying to isolate the B. So instead of -24, I'm going to do +24. And we can go over here just to be sure. I think I'm going to do it just to be safe, since I just made that error on the prior question. I know it in my head, but again, we just want to be sure. So I think it's 32. And I've added, and I'm checking my signs again just to be sure, and I've got my B. And does that make sense? 32 minus 24 is 8. It checks. All right, great. All right, now we're going to move on to another simple one, which is multiplication. This will be for homework number 2. So I will separate the homeworks so that the first part of the video, addition and subtraction, are for homework 1. Homework 2 would be multiplication, division, which I'll do next. And then your third homework will be the function tables, which will come last. So they will be in that order for you. Okay, easiest to the more tricky, I suppose. All right. All right, I'll be right back with you guys. All right, everybody, we're back for what will be on homework number 2. Okay, so this is multiplication. So again, just paying attention to what I'm putting up there in red. These are multiplication equations because, and this ties back to some of we had a little bit of errors understanding that, again, a letter that is sitting next to a number is multiplication. Some people were just, like if I said W2, they were just writing it as 72. It's not 72, it's 7 times whatever that is too in that case. So again, just remember that this together, I did a lot of Zooms with people this past week and they had it down after a few examples. So good for you guys who were doing that. That does mean multiplication, so just be really careful. All right, here we go. So when you are multiplying and trying to figure out what the letter equals, the opposite of multiplication, very similar to what we've been doing, we're looking at inverse operations. Instead of multiplying, the opposite of that would be to divide. So we are going to divide to get our answers. That's it. So this is pretty simple. Might look a little complicated, but it's not that at all. What we want to do is divide. So remember how I've been telling you we were moving to this division line? This is why we needed it, and that was why I kept on with kind of pushing you guys to use those lines instead of a division sign. Okay, so we need this division sign on this section of algebra. Now what we're going to do is same thing with addition and subtraction in a way, because we want that variable to be alone. We need to isolate him. Now next to him you will see a 4 attached, right? 4v. They're really close together. Those guys are attached. To undo this multiplication, we're going to divide by whatever number is sitting next to the letter. So we're undoing that. We're going to try to get that 4 away. If I do it to this side, so here's my wall again. Same idea with a wall. If I do it to this side, I have to divide this side. The only big difference here is that we're dividing, rather than the little bit different than the addition and subtraction. So what happens here is if I divide, forget about the letter for a minute, we're just taking care of the 4s. If I divide 4 by 4, I get the number 1. Now, back to last week's stuff, right? Do we need the number 1 in front of the v? No, it's just v, right? So these essentially cancel out. So 4 divided by 1 again is, 4 divided by 4 is a 1, but I don't need to say 1v. I can just say v. Is it okay for you to write 1v? Yes, absolutely, same thing. So my v is now by itself because these canceled and became a 1. So they're all set, they're gone. But remember, I have to balance it out. So how many times does 4 go into 24? What is 24 divided by 4? And that is a 6. Now again, you would have probably done this right in your head by looking at it. You could have easily told me 4 times 6 is 24. We need to show the work, so I'm looking for that on the homework. That's a big part of it. I need to see that you know what you're doing. If we plug this in to the original equation that is written in black marker, we'll plug the 6 in, then ask yourself, is 4 times 6 24? It sure is. So we are done. Great. All right, we're going to undo with division. We're undoing the multiplication with division. I've got to share the 7 with both sides because the 7 is what I'm trying to get rid of over here, right? We're dividing. 7 divided by 7 is a 1, but we don't need to use the 1. So my W can come down. There's my wall again, right? My variable comes down, and then I just have to know how many times does 7 go into 56. And hopefully you can think about that for a second and say that it's 8. Tristan and I have been working on flashcards because that's part of his 4th grade curriculum is all of the flashcards. So I bought a set, and he's pretty good with those ones, but those are great to do if you do have time at home, are just some quick flashcards. There's some good websites for that too. So if you're a little rusty on your multiplication, you might just want to touch up on that. If we check this and I put an 8 in, 7 times 8 is 56. So that's a check. All right, same thing again, you guys. Really simple. Just need that division line. What am I trying to get rid of? The 8, so that the f, the variable, is alone. But I have to divide by 8 on both sides. So those are all set. Here's my wall. I'm going to bring down my f. And 8 into 88, hopefully everybody said or would say 11. And then you check it. Stick the 11 in here. Is 8 times 11 88? It sure is. All right, I did 6 of these because they're pretty straightforward, and you could watch this a couple times. Okay, I'm not going to throw anything crazy at you on the homeworks. So same type of things, just different numbers. All right, now I noticed that my letter, my variable's over on this side. That's okay, doesn't matter. We still have to get the 4 away. So what am I going to do? Hopefully you're saying it at home. I'm going to divide by 4 on each side, right, to balance it out. And I also want those 4's to cancel here. And I can get them to cancel if I can get them to divide and equal a 1, which was 1D again, but we don't need the 1. You can just call it D. And then Now on this one, you might not know it right away in your head because it's not just one of those quick facts, right? Maybe some of you could do it in your head. I know many of you that could, but if you should always check it at the side. So 4 into 52, I get a 1. And then I have 12, 4 into 12 would be a 3. So you should get 13 is my D value. Now, if I plug that in to check it, is 13 times 4 52? Well, let's go backward. Is 13 times the 4 going to get me back to the 52? We get a 12. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 52. It sure does check. 13 is the right answer. You guys will not, if you get decimals, I told this to someone last week, something isn't quite right, so go back to the video or message me if you're really stuck. I would not give you decimals in this section. However, my challenge people, if you are doing any of the challenges this week, you may see some decimals. So now you've got to think back to our first unit of what do I do when I'm dividing decimals or multiplying decimals. So think about moving that decimal, okay? If you're up for the challenge, that will be the level B's. Part of that will be level B this week. All right, here we go again. I got to get that R alone. The way to do that is to cancel out the 9s. Remember, I have to share the 9 on this side also. So here's my wall. Now 9 into 108, you may not know right away, and that's okay. So we go over to do our division. 9 cannot go into 1, but it can go into 10. So nothing here, but 9 goes into 10 once. 9 times 1 is 9, left over with a 1. I bring down my 8. 9 into 18 is a 2. So 12 looks like it's our answer. So on this one, it appears that R equals 12. We're going to check it. So stick the 12 in. 12 times 9. I'll do it over here to keep this all together. And we're going to hope that 12 times 9 gets us back to 108. If so, we're right. Get an 18, and sure enough, look at that. Bam, all set. I guess I'm boring Arwen. She's still sleeping right down here. She's really cute. I love seeing all your dogs on Zoom, though, and your animals, you guys. They're adorable. Keep it coming. All right, we want to get that letter J alone, so we want to get rid of the 15 on both sides. Or I'm sorry, get rid of the 15 on this side, cancel it out, and share it with this side is what I should have said. I've got the J left over, so I bring him down. And then 15 into 90, that might be one that you don't know as easily, but I always can remember the 15 times 5 is 75, so then I kind of think, well, maybe one more than that. So in my head, I might think to try 15 times 6 maybe. So I might go over just to check that. That would be 30, 6, 7, 8. Sure enough, there it is. So it looks like it's 6. And I kind of just checked it because I just did 15 times. I did just check it, 15 times 6, and you get 90 back. That is how you do the multiplication ones. All right, and I'll be right back with the last set, which is division, and then followed up by some function tables, which are, again, super easy. All right, everybody, we're back for the division equations. So we've done so far addition, subtraction, multiplication, and now division. The division, again, will be part of the homework number 2, okay, the form A. All right, so here we go. So we know it's division because what do we see? All those lines, right? That's where, again, they're so important to be using at this point. Okay, so this is telling us m divided by 4 equals 9. Now, think about the opposite operation. Instead of dividing, I can undo all of this and solve for the variable, solve for the letter, if I just do multiplication. Now, this one's just a little bit trickier, but once you do a couple, I know you guys are you'll do very, very well. And you'll understand why it happens this way. All right, so it's the same idea of always isolating the variable. We want to get, in this case, the m alone. I noticed that it's got this 4 attached to it. We have to detach that. We have to undo it. So I want to get rid of the 4 by using the opposite of division, which is multiplication. So what you're going to do, because we're multiplying, I'm just going to put this in parentheses so you can see. We want this 4 to cancel out. So what I'm going to multiply it by is a 4. Now, for those of you that have had a lot of fraction work, what's really happening, I think you all know that a number, we've talked about this before too, a number that we put over when we're writing a whole number as a fraction, it's just that number over 1. So this is really what I'm doing right now. I'm multiplying by 4, which is the same as 4 over 1. Now, what some of you have had, I know, because we talked about this before, you know how to cross cancel. What happens on this one is that these 4s, because they're diagonal, can cancel each other out. We want that to happen. That's our goal, because this m needs to be alone. So what we're really doing, I could just write the 4 and just understand that it's over 1 and do those that way as we go forward. But we really don't need to write the entire fraction at this point. You may have to do more of that as you go on and there's more complex numbers. But just know that there's a 1 there. I could even, you know what, I'll even leave it just to show you. All right, now, so here's the thing. If I'm multiplying by 4 over 1 on this side, or 4, I have to also multiply by 4 on this side. So I've got to put that 4 over here also. Again, it's the same as 4 over 1. I could write it over 1. Maybe it's easier if I don't, actually. But 4 is fine. 4 over 1 is the same thing as 4, is really what I'm getting to. So we know that because these are diagonal, those can cancel out, leaving me with m, which is exactly what we want. So there's my m, and all I have to do with these two is multiply. That's it. 36. Now you always want to check it, right? So take your m and insert it into the original. So anything that's in black text right now that I wrote, just plug that in. Is 36 divided by 4 9? It is. So you can put your little check. You've checked that off. All right, so I took a little time to explain that one. You'll get the hang of it as we go. On number 2, I want to get rid of the 9. I have to undo the division with multiplication. So I like to put parentheses around that and understand that I'm multiplying by 9 over 1, which is the same as 9. Okay, you can keep the 9 over 1 or just put 9, that's fine, as long as you have the 9 on the top, because the numerator and the denominator are the two that have to cancel. Those will cancel each other out to leave us with w. Don't forget over here, I got to balance it because of my wall. Balance both sides like a scale. And 9 times 5 is 45. We check it. Is 45 divided by 9 5? Yep. And again, these numbers will be very workable, so you don't have to worry about any crazy numbers, decimals, fractions, anything like that on this for this section. All right, you guys, here we go again. I'm going to undo division with multiplication. I have to multiply by whatever's on the bottom. Again, I like to use my parentheses so I don't smush any numbers together. This is either 3 over 1, or you can just write it as 3. Either way, they cancel. And we already know that 1 times m is m, so that's all we have left. Now don't forget to do it on this side. Since I multiply by 3 here, I have to multiply by 3, or 3 over 1, doesn't matter, same thing. 12 times 3 is 36. Just check it. If I plug that in here, is 36 divided by 3 12? Yes. Good to go. All right. Now I've got a division by 7. I want to get rid of that 7, right? Wrap this around with parentheses. And over here, you're going to put your 7 or your 7 over 1. Either way, doesn't matter. The 7s will cancel. We're left with b. I have to make sure that I'm multiplying by 7 or 7 over 1 on the other side, which is a 63. We want to make sure we check it, so plug it in. Is 63 divided by 7 9? It sure is. All right, number 5. Now this is just flipped, but it doesn't matter, right? We're still doing w divided by 3. I have to undo the division with multiplication. I have to divide by that bottom number. I'm going to give those guys some parentheses. Again, I'm multiplying by either 3 or you can call it 3 over 1. Either way, those will cancel and it leaves us with the W. Remember, we don't need the 1 with the W. If I multiply by 3 on this side, I have to multiply by 3 over here. You can write it as 3 over 1 again if you would like. 3 over 1 is the same as 3. 3 times 7 is 21, we think. So let's check it. W equals 21. If I plug that in, is 21 divided by 3, 7? It checks. All right. I want to get rid of that 2 on the bottom. Instead of dividing, we are going to multiply to get it to cancel. Also multiplying by 2 over there to balance. I'm left with H, and 25 times 2 is 50. We check it. Is 50 cut in half or divided by 2 25? It sure is. And that is it. That covers all 4 operations. I'm going to move to one more section, which is for homework 3. I'll teach you guys how to do function tables. You've seen some of them before, different types of function tables. Now we're going to embed some algebra with those, okay? Super easy. So I'll be with you in a minute. All right, we are back for function tables, the last part of this whole week's lesson, okay? My favorite thing. These are bothering me because they're not straight. It's like being on the ocean, but we'll work with it. All right, so function tables, they will give you some type of expression up here. They will give you variables we can plug in, and then we're just going to plug in and solve each of those to get each answer, to see what the table output is. So we would call those numbers over here our input values, and then the output will be whatever we get over on this side. Okay, so I'll show you how to do these 4. I think they're kind of fun. I like to figure them out myself, but yeah. So let's just rock and roll here. So I'm going to keep the 18, and what this is telling me here, forget the other ones for a moment and just go one by one. It's telling me first to pretend that x equals 2. I'm going to insert that into this spot here. So what this is really saying for the first one is 18 minus 2. So all you're doing is plugging in the value they give you. You just have to do these one by one, okay? So again, we're just looking at this first row. Well, 18 minus 2 is an answer of 16. You can also go backward and check that. If I were to put the 16 in here, would I get back the 2? 18 minus 16 is in fact 2. So you can, just like we've been checking all along, you can do the inverse operation or opposite operation and check that. On this second one, we're putting in a value of x as 5. So this is 18 minus 5, which gives us 13. And we just check it backward, make sure we've got that. Is 13 plus 5 18? Yes, that checks. The next value is if x equals 8. So we're going to plug that in. 18 minus 8 will give us a 10. Checking it backward is 10 plus 8, 18. It sure is. So I kind of like to still do those check marks like we've been doing, just so I know I've checked my work. And then now we have x equals 10. 18 minus the 10 is 8. And again, checking it backward, 8 plus 10 is 18. So hopefully you kind of see how we're just doing one by one by one by one as we go. If it helps, I know it helps for me, when you've got this in front of you, is maybe if you're printing it out, you do not have to print it out. I know most people don't have printers accessible anyhow, but sometimes it helps to either just cover it up one by one, just as a little tool if it's too much for you to look at all of it at once. On this one, my expression here is a little bit different. It's 3 times whatever x is. Remember, a number next to a letter is not just putting in the 2 and calling it 32, or putting in the 5 and calling it 35. A lot of people were doing that. I think we've fixed all that. This is multiplication. This is really 3 times 2, 3 times 5, 3 times 8, and 3 times 10. And that's what we're doing in each of these. Now make sure you use parentheses, because if you forget to and you write it as 32, you might actually think your answer is 32. But remember, this is multiplication. It's 3 times 2, which is 6. All right, and you can check that backward by doing 6 divided by 2 gives us back the 3. All right, let's put in a 5 for x. So we're putting in that 5 right there, which becomes 3 times 5, which is 15. And sure enough, 15 divided by 5 gives us back the 3. On this one, we're inserting a value of 8 for x. So this is 3 times 8, which gives us 24. And finally, a value of x, I'm sorry, an x value of 10 is 3 times 10, not 310, 3 times 10. And I'll box these so that you guys can see them really clear when you're going through the videos, is 30. And again, working backward, 30 divided by 10 gives us the 3. All right, I like this one because some people can get confused and go, oh, well, is there another x value? Nope, x is the same as x. So if they tell you here that x is 2, oh, I should have drawn a line here for us. If they tell you that x is 2, then I'm just doing 2 plus 2. I'm putting it in twice, right? So, okay, we all know that 2 plus 2 is 4. I hope you said that. Now we're putting in a 5 and keeping everything else, keeping the sign the same, putting the other 5 in. So x plus x would be 5 plus 5 in this case, which is 10. Then we're plugging in an 8. 8 plus 8. Again, I'm just looking to plug it in just like that format. We get 16. Box these up for you guys. And finally, a value of 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. Awesome. And you can check those backward, right? By doing some subtraction. 4 minus 2 is 2. I have it right. 10 minus 5 is 5. 16 minus 8 is 8. And 20 minus 10 is 10. So another way to go ahead and just check your marks off. Check yourself off. All right. And now we have a division 1 here. And I know that because of that line, right? M divided by 3. Now, in this first case, the first box, they're telling me to make M the number 3. So I'm going to rewrite that as 3 divided by 3, because they told me to plug in the 3. 3 over 3, 3 divided by 3, is just the number 1. That's it. I look at the next one. Now they're telling me that the value of M is 12. I'm going to plug that in. And I'm still dividing by 3. I'm not changing that. 3 goes into 12 4 times. The next one, I have a value of 21. I'm going to plug that in. 21 divided by 3 is 7. And the last one, M has a value of 30. Plug that in and divide by 3. 30 divided by 3, whoops, sorry, that's not a very good 3, is 10. And remember, to check division, you can do the opposite, do the multiplication. So 1 times 3 is 3. 4 times 3 is 12. 7 times 3 is 21. And 10 times 3 is 30. Always check yourself as much as you can. Awesome. I think these are kind of fun. So you'll have some of these. This will be homework number 3, is very much like this. You will have 4 function tables to plug into. Okay? And that will be a wrap for math. I know there was a ton. The video, again, is long. You can just segment that at your own leisure. Most of you said you did not like it when there were multiple videos released. So this one I'm keeping all together. And again, you can just use it throughout the week as much as you need. And the videos will all be accessible when final exam time approaches and you're studying. Great. The YouTube videos are great tools to use for studying. So just keep that in mind as you're moving forward. Yeah, I think that's it. I hope you guys are super well. It was great, great, great to see so many faces last week. So I'm hoping for even more Zooms. I like doing them, and it really, really seems to help. And it's great to hear your voices and see your faces. So be well, and I will see you soon.